is this movie scary, or is the sound design eliciting a biological response in my brain that's scaring me? There's also another big difference between older horror films and newer films, and I would say really the last 15 years of horror, and that's sound design. Sound design the last 10 years has become, in many ways, if you look at the biggest aspect of horror now, where with a lot of older films, the story or what's happening on screen and the dread would be built visually or through character. But nowadays, a lot of dread is built on sound design. And sometimes when I'm watching a new horror movie, I'm thinking to myself, is this movie scary, or is the sound design eliciting a biological response in my brain that's scaring me? And I'm talking like the dread, the building of dread with sound design of high-pitched strings or whatever, something crazy in the sound design. And then sometimes right before a scare, they drop all the volume down to nothing. You don't hear anything, and that puts you on edge. And sometimes I'm watching horror movies nowadays, and I'm like, is the movie scary, or is the sound design literally messing with my brain the way that they know it does? And is that what's making me scared?
I would have to disagree with you here, man. I understand what you're going with, and I think a lot of modern films and filmmakers depend too much on sound design to scare you. But you look at great movies from the past. I mean, The Shining's an incredible example of sound design is helping create immense eeriness and tension and fear. You know, using Penderecki's music to get all these interesting, terrifying noises and string sounds, and it sounds like spiders crawling on strings. You know, I think if you take that music out of The Shining and do something a little more contemporary for the time, or if you do a lot more synth from Wendy Carlos, it doesn't have the same effect. So I think sound design has always been an important part of a lot of horror. You could get a lot of horror didn't depend on sound design in the past. You know, Rosemary's Baby is a movie that it doesn't have a crazy sound design dependence. There is some there, of course, when Rosemary's hearing things through the walls, for sure, but it's not like eerie tones that are trying to terrify you. But I think sound design's always been an important part of eliciting fear, and even in silent film, because you're depending on music and terrifying music to help depend on elicit fear. But sure, I think maybe there's an over dependence on it, but I think you're maybe going a little too overboard in that opinion.